The Old Testament reading this morning is this wonderful story of Jacob, who became Israel. You remember the story about the twin sons who were born, and Esau, the firstborn, who, as the firstborn, was regarded as the most important. He was a burly, red-haired, hairy man who loved hunting, shooting, and fishing. And I think, he packed out on the second row of the scrum, and his dad loved him. And Jacob was a quiet boy who hung around the house and liked reading and playing video games. And he was the apple of his mother's eye. And Jacob had intelligence, and he was devious, and he was self-willed, and he was manipulative. And through his childhood, this was showed time and time again in his reactions with his elder brother. You remember that he cheated his elder brother out of birthright, that is, the prerogatives that he would have as firstborn. And then when old Isaac was dying on his deathbed, his father, Jacob's mother, Rebecca, helped him with a piece of subterfuge. He disguised himself as his brother and got his father to bless him. Now, those days when a man was dying, he had two blessings, one with his right hand, one with his left. And the one you wanted to get was the one with the right hand. The one with the left hand was generally bad news for everybody who received it. And so his father blessed him and gave him the blessing, and once it was given, the blessing couldn't come back. But Esau, having been cheated out of his blessing, then chased Jacob into the wilderness. And Jacob ran, fearing for his life. And he came to the stream of Jabbok. And it's a little creek which runs through the eastern part of Jordan. And there he slept and had a dream. And the dream was a dream which is sort of prophetic, because it was a picture of the ministry which Jacob would one day have, and a picture of the ministry that the nation of Israel would have, and a picture of the nation, of the ministry which, in fact, the church would pick up. And in a way, it's a picture of priesthood. It's a ladder which ascends up to heaven. And on that ladder, the messengers of God come down, and the messages go up to heaven. So that is a way of saying that Jacob, and after him Israel, and after him the church, would be that spot in creation where God's blessing could flow down to humankind, and where the needs and aspirations of humankind can be brought before God. Now, that was a powerful message for Jacob to receive. But of course, it was far from the truth. Here he was, this scurrilous, devious, lying little man. And this could not describe him worse, this dream. But one day it would describe him, because Jacob was on a path of transformation. And it's interesting to see how that path takes place. He runs away to his mother's family, to his uncle Laban. And when he arrives at Laban's place, he sees one of Laban's daughters and rather fancies her. That's the younger daughter, Rachel. But what he hasn't counted on is that in his uncle Laban, he's met somebody even more devious, even more conniving, even more manipulative and scheming, and even more intelligent than he is himself. And so Jacob is tricked into spending 21 years in his uncle's company. And at every turn, his uncle uses him and manipulates him and cheats him. In other words, Jacob finds in his uncle a kind of magnified mirror image of himself. And in his uncle, he confronts all that is unworthy in his own personality and works through it. At the end of 21 years, he takes his wives and his children and his flocks, and he heads back to his own country. And on the way back, he arrives at the ford of Jabbok again. And going aside by himself, he sleeps in the same place that he slept 21 years earlier. And he has another profound spiritual experience. Whether it was a dream or a vision or something else, nobody knows. But all night long, he struggled with somebody. And at the end of the struggle, he finds himself wounded. And the other he's struggling with gives him a blessing. His name is changed from Yaakov, which means the trickster, the one who will trip others up, to Yisrael, which means the one who struggles with God. And in all of this long 21 years of struggle with his uncle, Jacob has been struggling with God, because this is the instrument that God has used for his transformation. When I look at this and think of the words of Jesus' parable, what it says to me is that God's interest in us is in transformation. And that transformation isn't about the surface details of our lives. God seeks to transform us at our very deepest level. And that transformation doesn't happen quickly. It happens as we confront ourselves. It happens as we face those things in us which are twisted and broken, those things which are malformed, the things which shouldn't be there but just happen to be there. We struggle and we become the people that God intends us to be. And as the parable tells us, and as the story tells us, this is a very long process. In fact, for most of us, it takes our entire lives. But this struggle, which when we are undergoing it, seems so painful and so bewildering, is actually an act of God's love for us. That God knows what we can be. God knows what he intends us to be. And God will do anything to bring us to that place. Amen.